Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling something pretty mind-bending. We're diving into a source document that kicks off with a massive puzzle from the James Webb Space Telescope and ends up questioning the very nature of reality itself. Okay, let's just start with this, because this one sentence really gets to the heart of a huge problem facing astronomers right now. Our best, most powerful telescope ever built is seeing things out there that, according to our current rulebook for the cosmos, have no business being there. So to really get why this is such a big deal, we first have to appreciate just how unbelievably powerful the James Webb Space Telescope, or JWST, really is. It's not just seeing further, it's seeing with a kind of clarity that's forcing us to rethink everything. I mean, just look at this. Webb took this picture of a thing called ARP 220. It's two entire galaxies crashing into each other. And the energy being thrown off by this collision is, well, it's shining with the light of more than 1 trillion suns. It's just staggering. And here's where the scale just gets wild. This chart puts it into perspective. See our home, the Milky Way galaxy? We think of it as huge, right? It's got the brightness of about 10 billion suns. Well, ARP 220 is 100 times brighter than our entire galaxy. That's a level of power that's almost impossible to get your head around. And you might think, okay, that's probably at the very edge of the universe. But nope, at 250 million light years away, it's basically in our cosmic neighborhood. We have a front row seat to this incredible universe-shaping power. But it's this kind of thing that's at the heart of the whole puzzle. And that brings us to the core of the mystery. You see, Webb isn't just finding incredibly bright things. It's finding things that look way too mature, way too grown up for how early they're showing up in the universe's history. So get this. The telescope has spotted at least 6 galaxies way back in the dawn of time that are just shockingly huge. They look big, they're bright, they're well-formed, kind of like our own Milky Way. But they exist at a time when they should be little more than tiny cosmic toddlers. This timeline just lays out the problem perfectly. We're seeing these impossible galaxies as they were just 500 to 700 million years after the Big Bang. Now, according to all our models, that is nowhere near enough time for a galaxy to gather that much stuff and form that many stars. It's like planting a sequoia seed and coming back a year later to find a 300-foot-tall tree. It shouldn't happen. So here's the bottom line. These observations are putting our standard model of the universe, it's called lambda CDM, under incredible stress. This model is the foundation for almost everything we think we know about the cosmos. And right now, it can't explain what Webb is seeing. And you don't have to take my word for it. This quote from one of the scientists involved says it all. If these observations hold up, we're not talking about a small tweak. We're talking about either needing a completely new way of thinking about how galaxies form, or we need to fundamentally change our whole theory of the universe itself. A major rewrite is on the table. So, if our main scientific model is creaking at the seams, where do we look for answers? Well, this is where the source document takes a really interesting turn. It asks us to start considering ideas that are a bit on the fringe, but have incredibly deep roots in ancient history. The first idea it explores is an astronomical one. And it's pretty wild. What if our sun isn't traveling through the galaxy alone? What if it has a secret partner? A long-lost twin? The argument for this actually starts with something we use every day, the calendar. The source points out that our modern calendar needs leap years just to keep it from drifting out of sync. But ancient cultures, like the Egyptians, had stunningly accurate calendars. How? They anchored their year to the rising of the star Sirius. The source suggests this intense focus on both the sun and Sirius might mean they were tracking a 2-star system. And that leads us to this concept of a binary star. Now, this might sound like science fiction, but it's actually incredibly common. Modern astronomy confirms that most stars are born in pairs, orbiting a shared center of gravity. In fact, some estimates say up to 90% of all stars might start their lives with a partner. So the question isn't whether binary systems exist, it's whether we are in one. Okay, so here is the full theory the document presents. It proposes that our sun is in a huge, long orbit around the Sirius star system, and that this massive orbit is the real reason for that 24,000-year cycle we call the precession of the equinoxes, that slow wobble of the Earth's axis. It even cites data from a research group that claims Sirius doesn't appear to move in the sky relative to us, which is exactly what you'd expect if it were our gravitational dance partner. All right, so from here,
the source takes its final biggest leap. It moves from alternative astronomy into a cosmology that is deeply spiritual. It asked us to stop thinking about the universe as just a physical machine and start considering it as a living, conscious entity.
The document introduces this esoteric idea of a hierarchy of suns. In this view, our sun is orbiting what's called a central sun, a star named Alcyone in the Pleiades, and that system is, in turn, orbiting an even greater central sun, which, you guessed it, is identified as Sirius again. This isn't just about gravity, though. It's about energy and consciousness. So what exactly are these central suns? Well, in this framework, they're more than just stars. They're described as enormous hubs of consciousness. Think of them like cosmic transformers that take an energy from a universal source and then step it down, filter it into frequencies that can support life and spiritual evolution in the systems orbiting them. And what's really fascinating is how the source connects this to the ancient philosophy of Jainism. Jain cosmology describes a universe made of 6 core things, and one of them is pure consciousness, or jiva. In this worldview, there's no creator god. The universe itself has a kind of default intelligence, and it doesn't have a single big bang, but instead moves through these endless cycles of expansion and contraction, almost like a cosmic breath. And this brings us all the way back to the beginning, to this final provocative thought. Science is fantastic at telling us how things work. Ancient mysticism has always been asking why. So where do these two paths meet? When a telescope like Webb finds galaxies that literally shouldn't exist, it pushes science to the very edge of what it knows. And the source document suggests that maybe, just maybe, it's right there, at that edge where our models break down, that we discover science and mysticism have been asking the same questions all along, just in different languages. Maybe they're both trying to describe a single conscious cosmos that is far grander and more mysterious than we ever dared to imagine.